Hello and a really warm welcome to this London Universities Group Roadshow webinar. My name is John Cheek. I'm here from UniTasterDays. I'm the founder and director of UniTasterDays, and we're hosting the event today. But the event is actually delivered by 6 London universities. The universities featuring tonight are City University, Goldsmiths, Queen Mary, Royal Holloway, SOAS and St George's. And I've got the easiest job of the lot because all I'm going to be doing is introducing each speaker and providing an introduction to the event today. As far as the event today, just to give you an idea of what we're going to be covering, you're going to hear more about the benefits of staying in London to study from Isaac, who's a final year student at Goldsmiths University. You're going to also hear about the differences between school and university from Laura and Natalie. Laura is joining us from SOAS, Natalie is joining us from Queen Mary. You're then going to hear about student life and what you can actually expect at university from Jacob and from Priya. Priya is joining us from City, and also Jacob is joining us from St George's. And then last but certainly no means least, we've got Tara joining us from Royal Holloway, and Tara is going to provide a guide to student finance. In the second part of my introduction is just to give you an idea of who the universities are that are joining us, what subjects they're representing as well. So I'm just going to really quickly just share my screen. And on the slide just here, you've got a map of London and where the university is based. You see SOAS, City, Queen Mary, Goldsmiths, St George's and Royal Holloway. That's where our universities that are joining us are based today. So again, if you're in London, or most students watching this are in London at the moment, if there is a particular university that, or a particular side of London the way you want to be based, this map will give you a bit of a grasp of where the universities are based that are joining us. And the next thing you're probably going to be thinking is which university is going to run the course that I'm interested in. So what I'm going to do now is show you just 2 slides that's going to show you which universities deliver which courses. Now, I'm conscious there is a lot of information on this slide and I don't want to whiz through it really fast. So I'm just going to give you 1 minute to look at both this slide and then another minute to look at the next slide. On the left-hand side, you've got subject areas. And at the top, you've got the 6 universities present in terms of this event. And then what you can do then is have a look at which universities deliver courses in the subject areas you're interested in. So for example, you've got the first one, Art, Media and Design, Goldsmiths, Royal Holloway, SOAS. And then you can go down on the left-hand side, find your subject, and then cross-check that with universities. So I'm just going to give you 30 seconds to have a look at this one. And then there's the second slide that I'll show you just after that. So I'll just give you 10 more seconds to have a look at this slide just here. So you've got subjects on the left and then universities, and then you can find your university of choice. And then guys, if you're thinking, oh, my subject isn't there, there is a second slide, which I'm going to show you now. So the final thing for me to do now is to introduce our first speaker, which is Isaac. Isaac is a final year student, economics student, joining us from Goldsmiths. And Isaac is going to focus on his experience as a commuting student. He's going to talk through the advantages that come from studying at home and staying in London. So if anyone's watching this and thinking, I might well stay at home and study in London still, Isaac's going to provide a really useful perspective on that. And with that, Isaac, I'll pass things straight over to you, please.
Awesome. Thanks, John. As John has said, guys, my name is Isaac. I'm a final year student at Goldsmiths. I do economics and econometrics. And I want to tell you a little bit about the benefits from my perspective in regards to being in London. I believe I'm going to share my screen a little bit so you can see. Now, I'm only going to focus on 3, just given the time. One of the ones I personally think has been really helpful in regards to staying in London is the familiarity, which is the pause that you see here. Why do I say that? I'm in London. I'm a Londoner. I've lived there for a good 19 years. Studying here as well has actually been beneficial because the familiarity is helpful. It's really helpful considering the fact that I'm in Essex and I travel down to Goldsmiths, which is in South London. What that does, it allows me to kind of, because I know the routes, because I know the transport link, because I know the system, it makes it easy for me to get to university quite on time. This is actually very essential, especially considering when you have exams or when you need to, when there's quite a high level of workload. Knowing the route, knowing the direction in which I'm going doesn't stress me so much, so I know how to get there quickly. And what's also helpful is because of the sense of familiarity, I know where I'm going. So I feel safe throughout the time that I'm making my journey. I think also one aspect of being in London is really just the people. There's so many different kind of people in London, a wealth of people, different culture, different background, and all in one place. You know, traveling to Goldsmiths, meeting new students, you're able to make friends from different parts of the world who come to London. And because you have an understanding of what London has to offer, you can easily guide them and advise them as to where is the best place to go and where not to go as well, which is quite relevant. I find those two things are really, really helpful. In terms of employability as well, my course is quite finance related, which is great because I'm in London. There's quite a lot of financial institution in London where normally if I was outside of London, for me to get direct access to them would be a little bit more difficult. But because of the fact that I'm in the same city as they are, I can get direct contact to individuals who potentially could help me in the career in which I choose. What I like is I have a mixture of the two of staying in London, is that you have the lived experience as well as the known experience. You know, normally what's known about London is it's a popular place, people come to it, but because of the lived experience that I have as well, with the fact that I'm studying, I'm able to navigate around London quite easily, and it makes it easier for me to kind of get familiar with my studies, with students, as well as with lecturers as well, because a few of the lecturers are from London as well. So there's that little bit of camaraderie, because it's like, oh wait, you're from London, I'm from London, what part? It brings us together. And also the links as well. In terms of just traveling around, it saves me money financially. Financially, this is really helpful because I know what time to take the train and what time not to take the train, what transport to take and what not to take. The best direct route is really easy to know once you kind of explore, once you get to know London a bit more. I guess, I mean, if there was anything else I would say, it's really more in terms of saving money. Definitely, it looks good on your CV as well, knowing that you're in an environment where there's quite a lot of competition, but also a lot of opportunities, because being the fact that I'm in London helps massively when I'm applying for jobs, because I know what the market is looking for. I can meet people while I'm on the way there. I mean, Goldsmiths is in South London. For me to get to Goldsmiths, I have to go through Canary Wharf, which is quite it's a business district. Most of the time I'm on the train, I encounter people who work in that industry, who work in an industry that I'm potentially interested in. And through that, there's a connection in some respect. Sometimes, you know, you're on a transport, you do talk. And I understand this is pre-COVID, but even during, or rather this is pre-COVID, but even during the COVID time, in terms of transport, the libraries are still kind of open in some respect. You can still book in time. So I still run into people who potentially could advise me into the industry I'm interested in. I don't want it to be too fast. I hope I'm not speaking too fast, but the quality and reputation of Goldsmiths helps me as well. I think the fact that being in London, there's quite a lot of universities who have really good reputations around the world, which attracts quite a lot of students, which means I can connect with different students, not just solely on my campus, but really across across London. Pre-COVID, I was able to use different facilities that different universities offered, as long as they were part of London, just a network of universities in London. But even post in the COVID times, what's been great is there's been networks that I've been able to build in the last 2 years, especially as it's my final year. Some students have been able to retain the friendship, the relationship that I've built in the first and second year to just get more information regarding my course. And I also understand what it's like to study at different universities, and also see what links I can make that way. Makes it, which is really, really encouraging. Yeah, I think the choices available in London is amazing. Choices in terms of transport, choices in terms of universities, and choices in terms of just the familiarity of knowing where you're going. And overall, it really does save time. I think it saved me a lot of time just knowing that I'm in London and I know where I'm going to. It takes me roughly 40 minutes or so to get to my university on a good day. And most times there's no delay, which is very helpful. If you have any questions, please, I'm happy to answer some as well. But these are my experiences of really highlighting some of the benefits of studying in London.
A big thank you to Isaac joining us from Goldsmiths, University of London. Our next speakers today, and this section has got two speakers, which is absolutely wonderful, are Laura and Natalie. And they're going to talk about the differences between school and university and what you can expect by, when you do progress onto universities, the difference that you can find in terms of that and school. To give you a bit of an introduction to our speakers first, Laura is a UK student recruitment manager at SOAS, University of London. And Laura's already been very busy in terms of answering some of your Q&A questions, I've noticed. Laura's role, she represents SOAS, coordinating and attending higher education activities with schools and colleges all over the UK. So it might be that some people actually in schools might actually recognise Laura from some of the work that she's been doing. Natalie is a student ambassador and events officer at Queen Mary University of London. And Natalie supports student ambassadors and supporting outreach and recruitment events. And one thing actually, when you start university, a lot of students actually become student ambassadors to earn a bit more money, and it's people like Natalie that make that happen. So it might be, again, if you study with Queen Mary, Natalie is someone that you run into when you're over there. But I'll pass things over to Laura and Natalie, please. Laura will speak first.
Okay, so what we'll be talking about today between myself and Natalie is what is the difference between studying at school and college and going on to study at university. So in terms of what we'll cover, I'll talk a little bit about the student community that you might find at some of our universities. I'll talk about academic staff that you'll be able to meet and encounter in your lectures and outside your classes. I'll go on to talk about study abroad and work experience opportunities. And then I'll hand over to Natalie, who will be talking about study spaces and resources, research experience opportunities, and the transition from A-level and BTECs to undergraduate degree programmes. So the first thing then, I guess, that you might notice when you come and visit our universities or when you're starting to study at universities is our large student populations. So generally speaking, university populations are very large and they really range in size depending on the university that you go to. But to give you an idea, represented by the universities here tonight, we have student populations of between about 5,500 university students going up to about 28,000 university students. So as I said, it is very varied, but generally speaking, quite large populations compared to probably what you're used to at school and college. And another great thing about universities is that we have a really diverse student body. So we've got students from all sorts of different nationalities, backgrounds, identities, all together on university courses, all together at universities. So to give you an idea, we have really large international student populations often at universities. So with the universities here represented tonight, we have sort of between about 8% and 50% of our student populations are international students. So you get to meet people from everywhere, which is great. We've got high proportions of mature students as well. So mature students are students that begin their studies from the age of 21 and over. So you'll be studying alongside students of all ages and experiences as well. And then also outside of your classes, you're likely to meet students on postgraduate programs as well. So on master's programs, on PhD research programs, and all of these things, all of these different backgrounds and all of these different experiences mean peer-to-peer learning is a really important part of university study. In terms of class sizes, and my colleagues might touch on this a little bit more later on, but you'll have lectures and you'll also have seminars, tutorials and practical sessions depending on the courses that you're learning on. So in terms of the lectures, they tend to be the larger lessons. They tend to be between sort of 50 up into the hundreds of students in your lecture theatres. So it is a big student gathering. And then in terms of seminars and tutorials, they tend to be the smaller sessions, so the smaller breakout groups where you discuss what you've learned in your lectures and what you've learned sort of in your own research in more detail. So at SOAS, our seminars and our tutorials reach up to about 15 students, so it is a much smaller group. And then there's activities outside the classroom as well. So that might be through your student union, but I know my colleagues will talk a little bit more about that later in sort of the student life section. So moving on to talk about academic staff then. So we have a wide variety of academic staff at all of our universities. So academic staff are generally specialists in their fields. They're going to be people that will be teaching you, they'll be your lecturers, but they're also researchers as well. So generally academic staff will have a specialist area within the wider discipline that their department focuses on. And their specialist area is often very linked to the modules which they teach on as well. So teaching and supervising is just one part of their role. And then they also have other responsibilities, so researching, field work. Often they'll be publishing their work in academic publications like books and journals, and you might even use some of their books and journals as sources in your work at university. And then often they're advisors as well to organisations and sometimes the government. You might find their commentary or their interviews in the media as well. So they've got lots of different roles. And the times when you'll come into contact with them will generally be during your contact hours, which is another word for class time. And the number of contact hours that you have will really vary depending on your programme. But generally speaking, you'll have fewer sort of contact hours or class time than you will have had at school. Most of your learning, or a lot of your learning, it will depend on your course, will happen outside of the classroom through your own research. And academics will generally have office hours as well, of about 2 to 3 hours per week, where you can drop by, have a chat with them about your programme, have a chat with them about assignments or any other support that you need. And there are academics that are assigned to you as well when you start your programmes that are called personal tutors, and they're sometimes called academic advisors. And they'll be sort of the academic member of staff that you can go to and you can schedule appointments with periodically to discuss any support needs that you have too. And then the final sort of section from me is on other opportunities that you might find at university. So the first of which I'm going to talk about is study abroad. So you'll find lots of different study abroad opportunities depending on your course, depending on your university. Some universities offer year abroad schemes. Some universities offer sort of semester or term abroad options. And then other universities also offer summer school abroad options for a few weeks over the summer as well. So the really good thing about doing these study abroad programs is that you'll make a global network of friends. So not only will you be able to meet students from the host country, but also from countries around the world that are also participating in study abroad. It'll give you the opportunity to experience a different culture. So that might be travel, or that might be just gaining a new perspective. It may give you the option to learn a new language, depending on where you go and study. So you might be doing a language program anyway, or if you're not doing a language program, but you're studying abroad, you may have options to do language classes, or just by immersion in the culture itself, you'll pick up a lot more of the language. So in terms of study abroad, it will depend again on your university and on your department as to where those study abroad partners are around the world. Different universities tend to have different partner universities in different countries. So that's something to bear in mind when you're looking at programs. And then the final thing that I'm going to touch on is work experience opportunities. So you might have a wide range of options in terms of work experience that you can gain inbuilt into your program, or work experience that you can gain outside of your program that sort of develops your skill set and knowledge through other activities. So one of the ways that you will be able to gain this through university programs is a lot of courses offer work experience modules or placements. So that might be where you do a placement over a sort of condensed period of time, or it might be a weekly commitment as part of a core module or as part of an optional module. So you could choose to do it as part of your program. Some of the universities here offer year in industry programs or professional training placements. And other universities here also offer degree apprenticeship programs, which are programs where you can work for your employer alongside studying part-time as well. And then you'll come out of that and have a full degree at the end of that. And the good thing about universities as well is that they have careers services that can support you really well. So all of our careers services can help you with finding things like volunteering opportunities, internship opportunities during university holidays. So university holidays tend to be a bit longer, so you've got a little more time to sort of do those sorts of things. And you'll also be able to obtain volunteering experience, often through your student unions. So there's lots of different ways you can go about getting that experience. But I'll hand over to Natalie now for her section.
Thanks, Laura. Hi, everybody. So just looking at study spaces and study resources. As a student at university, you'll get access to a university library. Libraries have a whole host of resources from books, journals, newspapers, as well as databases as well. And they also provide a space for you to study, and they often have designated silent study areas or non-silent study areas if you don't like studying in silent. But these can also be really beneficial if you're working on a group project. The libraries also give you open access to PCs, so you can use computers for free, usually for free of charge. And there will also usually be space for you to take your own laptop if you want to do so, and they usually have suitable charging points as well. At Queen Mary, we have a laptop loan service, and it's usually, I think that's for a small cost, but that may differ to other universities. So not all universities may have that. University libraries tend to have quite long opening hours. So for example, at Queen Mary, our library is open from 8 o'clock in the morning till 10 o'clock in the evening at the moment. And we also have a library on 3 of our different campuses, and students can use any one of those libraries on any campus at any time. As all the universities here today are part of the Universities of London group, you'll be automatically enrolled for the use of the University of London's central facilities. That includes the Student Central, and that's a student hub that gives you access to sports, networking, training, social events, as well as the largest indoor pool in central London. And you also get access to Senate House Library, as well as other museums, galleries and libraries too. Laura, could I get the next slide, please? Thank you. The library also support you with developing your academic skills that you need to excel at university. So university libraries tend to have an academic support team, and they'll be able to help you with writing essays, finding and using resources and databases effectively. And usually they may have bespoke skill workshops on things such as critical thinking, note-taking, referencing, time management and revision. Support by these sessions is usually offered in a tutorial, so that's usually a one-to-one consultation, or usually they have drop-in sessions on set days and times per week. Most universities also have peer study support, but I'm going to come on to that in a little bit more detail later on. Next slide, please, Laura. So in terms of research experience, Laura mentioned about the ways that you might learn, but you'll also get to experience different ways of assessment as well. And in your final year, you will do a final year project, which is usually referred to as a dissertation. And within all your assessments, as well as your dissertation, you're going to be expected to reference other academic work and complete research in order to support your views and your analysis and your arguments within your academic pieces of work. The library can also again support you with maybe finding research on a particular topic. You may have a keen interest on a particular area that you want to delve into more research on and learn more about in a deeper sense. And just to touch on that, it is really important when you're at university that you do use referencing. Otherwise, you'll be, I guess, you'll be, what's the word I'm looking for? It will be classed as plagiarism. So if you don't reference work properly or appropriately, there's a term called plagiarism, which is like copyright for other people's work. Next slide, please, Laura. And then in terms of transition from school or college to university or BTECs, there's lots of opportunities, but there are also some challenges that you may face and that lots of new students do face when they come to university. One of the challenges is that lots of new students can find adapting to the new learning styles a challenge. You have to get used to new ways of learning and assessment, and that can be challenging because obviously you're not used to it. You also get feedback via email, so you may be used to at the moment at school or college getting feedback on a one-to-one basis, but at university that'll be much less personable and it'll just be via email. You will also have much more free time, and it's This free time is your responsibility to do with it what you like, but there is an expectation at university of independent study. So it is your responsibility to get the work done. So you'll have to manage your deadlines, manage your workload, and manage your weekly tasks as well, and maybe alongside part-time jobs too. So it's really important that you're organised to meet those deadlines, and you'll need to plan your study time and your free time so that you do become an effective independent learner. And one good thing, and something that maybe you don't realise when you come to university, if you don't understand something, it is really important that you do ask for help, so you can get the support you need on that topic. And unlike school or college, you may study multiple subjects, but at university, you may delve deeper into a particular subject of study, and that will allow you to focus more on specific topics of interest. And then finally, most universities, as I mentioned, have peer support programs. So these can help you get the help and support you need with your studies. At Queen Mary, we have PASS, which is a peer assisted study program. And this helps first years support with study and revision techniques from second and third year students. We also have a buddy scheme. So if you're looking to get support from another student, but you may not want to focus on the academic work so much. There's also lots of student support services at university, some of which I've mentioned here, but they can also help students without family contact, domestic violence, disability support, and many others as well. And just a final couple of pieces of advice is speak to current students on UniBuddy at your desired university to learn more about that university and course, and also explore places near the campus where you may be studying. So then you've got some things to look forward to when you do start university.
Thank you very much, Natalie and Laura. Natalie joining us from Queen Mary and Laura joining us from SOAS. Brilliant insight in terms of differences between school and university. Our next speakers are joining us from City University and also St George's. We've got Jacob joining us from St George's. Jacob is a student recruitment and outreach manager, and Priya is a marketing and recruitment assistant at City. And they're going to provide a guide to student life.
Hi everyone, so my name is Priya Khindria and I'm a UK marketing and recruitment assistant at City University of London, and as John said, I'm joined by Jacob. If you'd like to introduce yourself.
Hi everyone, my name is Jacob Brown and I'm student recruitment manager at St George's, University of London.
So we are both going to be talking to you today a bit more about student life. Some of the stuff we've talked about already has already been touched upon, but we'll go into it in a bit more detail. So the way that Jacob and I have decided to do this presentation is kind of splitting it into support that the universities will offer you whilst you are studying there, and then moving on to the different opportunities outside of your degree, getting involved in student and life and the student experience through the Students' Union, Welcome and Freshers Week, and also part-time work, specifically looking at part-time work you can complete with the university. So firstly, we'll start with academic and study skills support. So when you go to university, you might find that it's all a bit different than when you were at school and college, kind of what's already been spoken about. There's lots of different ways of teaching. There's lectures, tutorials, seminars, labs. There's also a lot of time dedicated to independent study. On top of that, there are lots of different kinds of assessments that you might have never done before and different types of coursework. So sometimes this can be a little bit overwhelming for students, and we completely understand that. So our student support services are there to give you any help on academic and study skills. And these are just some of the ways that we will do that, through developing effective academic and writing skills, helping you with revision techniques, understanding your own specific learning style and the different tools you can use to understand that, understanding tutorial feedback, preparing oral presentations, time management skills, which is important for all aspects of university life and beyond, improving your note-taking, essay and report writing, and critical thinking and evaluation. One thing I will say is when you're at university, there's a lot of ownership on you. And so we won't necessarily know if you're struggling, but student support is there. As long as you reach out and accept that you need help and ask for it, it will be given to you, because universities are really here to help you get the best degree that you can. Another kind of support we'll be talking about is disability support. So at all of the universities, we warmly welcome students who are disabled or have a specific learning difficulty. We're here to support any student or potential student with specific needs. Also, all of our disability support services understand that there's no one uniform approach on how to help a student. We can offer a combination of things and tailor them to each specific student. And this can be a combination of advice, guidance, reasonable adjustments, examination adjustments, DSA applications, tutoring, mentoring, assistive technology, and accommodation as well. The one thing we would maybe advise is that you declare your disability or specific learning difficulty or any additional needs on your application form before you send this off to UCAS. This is only because it gives the universities the earliest opportunity to support you and put any arrangements into place. And this means if you have an offer from one of us, we might actually contact you and discuss how to make that transition into university a bit easier. If you don't declare it on your application form, you will obviously still get the help if you go to any of the universities. But as I said before, that might mean that you yourself need to reach out and let us know, because we won't be aware that you need any support with any of these things. So, student life, starting at university, it can be extremely exciting and maybe a little bit scary as well. But it's a great opportunity to make new friends, try new things that you've not had the opportunity to do before, and gain key employment skills. You're now going to be independent, and that's whether or not you commute and live at home, or if you decide to move to a new city and stay in accommodation. You're really being put in the driver's seat of your own life, not to sound too cheesy, but it's all about how you manage things from there out, balancing your academic studies with your social life, getting student finance, that will go into your account, so it's up to you to manage your money, but there'll be more on that in another presentation later. And also taking care of your health and having those ever important time management skills as well. So I'm just going to really quickly talk about something you might have heard of, the Students' Union. I know when I was applying to university, I thought the Students' Union was a bar and canteen style food. And whilst a lot of them do have that, they're much more than that. They're a student-led charity, and they're run by students for students. Each student union at each university might be made up slightly differently, but they tend to have a student-elected president and vice presidents as well, and these are the core values. They represent the student voice to the university. They provide welfare support for students, so students can go to them if they're needing any help. They promote fairness and equality and diversity in all areas of the university, and also inside clubs and societies and sports teams as well. They provide opportunities for students, making sure that there are things they can get involved in, schemes you can help run the Students' Union as well. They run the Freshers' Week events and events all throughout the year and have different ways that you can meet other students. And they also kind of control or affiliated with all of the clubs, societies, and sports as well. But on that note, I will let Jacob take over and speak a bit more about student life side.
As Priya has just flicked over the slide there, we've got some of the sports and societies that all the universities have, or some of the universities have in the room. So within the room, we'll have over 100 different types of sports and societies. And these groups can provide an ideal opportunity for you to meet like-minded individuals whilst doing something you love. Or it perhaps can give you the opportunity to try something completely new that you've never even thought about before and didn't even know existed. Each of the clubs is run by students themselves. And that means that if you're really keen to get involved, you can in fact take on a leadership role with one of the clubs, such as president, treasurer, or even events and fundraising officer. So you might think that you want to join a sports team such as football, badminton, or netball, and you can compete against other universities in the Bucks League on Wednesday afternoons. Or perhaps you want to join a club such as debating and develop your skills in radio, or even join something like the Vegan and Vegetarian Society. Joining one of these sports societies can be an extremely rewarding opportunity, and it provides you with a great social outlet at university. You'll often find that a lot of students, their main group of friends comes from their sports society, and they'll still be friends with them for life. Something to also notice, the societies often run activities at a cheaper price than going privately if you were to go, snowing or climbing, snowboarding or climbing or something like that. And finally, if you can't see a society you like, there's always the opportunity to make your own. So now move on to volunteering. Being based in such a large city like London means there's multiple types of volunteering that you can apply to and get involved in. Giving your time to volunteering whilst you're studying is a great way to learn new skills, develop varied work experience, meet new people, and also have fun while supporting others. Opportunities to volunteer may come in the form of community work, fundraising for charities or local businesses, and even taking part in student challenges like trekking up a mountain or racing to get as far away from London as you can without spending any money. More recently, we've seen a huge support from the student community for the ongoing COVID pandemic, and I'm sure you've heard plenty about that in the media. Most SUs will have a dedicated volunteering team or society, and that's a great place to start a search for volunteering opportunities. So we've got Welcome or Freshers Week here. So most people would have heard of this before. However, there really can be a misconception about what this is, and people think it's all about nights out, when it really is much more than that. During this first week, there's such a wide range of events for students to attend, and some unis will run up to 80 day and evening nighttime events. A lot of the week is organised by the student union, and they'll work to ensure there really is something for everyone and every taste. And it gives you a great introduction to university campus life. So events that have been run from universities in the room today include a Netflix watch-along movie night, table tennis and bowling tournaments, Oktoberfest, virtual murder mystery events, sports and society taster sessions, poetry and live music, and virtual painting sessions, to name just a few. Whilst you're studying, you might find that you need to, or you may just want to, top up your student finances by securing a part-time job. So there's a variety of kind of jobs that students will take on. That could include retail work in a shop, working in a bar or a restaurant, call center, administration experience in offices, brand ambassadors for businesses such as Popcorn and other companies, and student ambassador work, which we'll briefly come on to later. You can often find part-time workers on websites such as studentjobs.com or Indeed, as well as LinkedIn. You might actually consider looking at a specific company or retail outlet, such as maybe a local mall to you. And you can always look to work with the careers team in the university, who often work with a lot of external businesses and will have opportunities to take on part-time work. They'll also help you when applying to those jobs and maybe do kind of interview practice or CV support. And finally, if you're really struggling, you can just even do some flyering in the local companies around you. We recommend to balance your work and study, that you do no more of 20 hours per week to allow you to do full-time education as well as that. And there's some great benefits of working part-time. Obviously, you earn money to help you while you're studying, but you can also develop skills and experience whilst making new contacts, which all could benefit you when graduating or in later life. So I briefly touched on the student ambassador scheme, and this is a great opportunity for students to get work whilst they're studying. The student ambassadors, I'm sure you would have seen on virtually or in person before, and these are students who represent the university and promote higher education whilst getting paid. They'll take on jobs such as open days, school visits, widened participation events, graduation, clearing. Some even take over the social media accounts, and I'm sure you've seen some of that recently, as well as webinars, but also just general office jobs. The best thing about this is that you really decide when you want to work. You will get sent a list of jobs and you choose when you want to apply. So an alternative to working perhaps every Saturday 9 till 5 in a shop near you, you can really choose what hours suit you best. So if you're interested in more information on anything we've talked about today, you can go onto the relevant sites in front of you there to find out information about the very different areas. And finally, we just wanted to say that student life really is what you make it, and it does encompass academic and your fun time at university. There's so much opportunity for you whilst you're at university, and it's really about you reaching out and grabbing it. It's great to speak to you. I'll hand back to John.
Last but certainly by no means least is Tara. Tara's going to cover student finance, which is for many students, the biggest barrier to university. It's certainly the area that a lot of students just don't really understand very much. And Tara's going to provide brilliant insight in terms of how student finance works. She's a schools and college liaison officer at Royal Holloway. Straight over to you, Tara.
So I'm going to talk about 3 key things in this session. I'm going to be covering Student Finance England and what that means. In terms of the nations, it's different between England, Northern Ireland, Scotland and Wales, and I'll talk specifically about England. I'll also talk about repayments via the student loan company and get you to think about budgeting. Now, there's 2 key types of student loans. There's the tuition fee loan and the maintenance loan. The tuition fee loan covers the tuition fees. It's paid directly to the university, and it doesn't matter what your household income is, where you live, or what your living situation is. Everyone is entitled to the full amount, which currently is £9,250. Tuition fees are set by the government, so that's the maximum that any of them can charge you. It's repaid the April after you graduate, and only if you're earning enough. The next kind is the maintenance loan. Now, this is the one you'll probably experience the most because your tuition fee loan goes directly to the university. It covers your living costs. It's paid directly to yourself 3 times a year, typically in September, January, and also in April. It's at the start of the term, so it could change if Easter changes. You're not paid again until the following September, so you need to think about how you're going to budget your money throughout the whole year. It does depend on your household income, and I'm going to talk about that word a little bit more in a second. And it depends if you choose to live in London or outside of London and stay in your parental home or your family home or leave. It's also not paid until the April after you graduate. The maintenance loan is done on a sliding scale, so it's really important that you go on the calculator, the student finance calculator, to see what you can get. These are just some examples that I'm going to give you. This is for anyone who goes to university this coming September, but the figures tend to change slightly. As you can see here, for someone who's living away from home in London, the maximum you can receive is 12,382, and the minimum is 6,858. For those of you who are in London and staying at your parental home or staying at your family home, you can also see the figures at the far right there, the maximum being 7,987 and the minimum being 3,516. Household income is really important. If, for example, in my situation, I didn't grow up in a house of both my parents, I live with just one of them. But for example, say a step parent lives in that house, maybe they don't pay for you, but they may be counted towards that household income. So it's important when you're looking at the calculator, you think about that. It's done on the previous tax year. So imagine if you went to university this September, it would be done on April 2019 to April 2020. Unfortunately, with the pandemic, there's been a lot of people who've lost hours or had their jobs, unfortunately, they've been lost. If this happens to your family, you can call Student Finance and ask that they assess you on the current year. Now, the repayments are what's really interesting about student loans. They're not paid until the April after you graduate, and only if you're earning above the threshold. You then only pay 9% above the threshold, and it's deducted from your payslip in the same way that a tax is. If you move abroad, you do have to pay it, but you have to set up something called a direct debit, which is like an automatic payment. I myself have lived abroad since leaving university, and that's how I did it. And the key here is that after 30 years, it's wiped, no matter how much debt is left. The threshold for anyone entering university since 2012, we call them Plan B, is £27,295. This will be as of April, and it tends to go up each year, so it might change by the time you graduate. So if you imagine that your salary was £27,296, think about how much over the threshold you are and what percentage that is. The threshold is £27,295, which means you're £1 over the threshold, which 9% of that is 9 pence. If, for example, you went to university before 2012, so that was before the tuition fee increase, even though the tuition fees were lower, so is the threshold. So in the exact same year, if you earned the exact same amount, they would repay £666.09. And that's something to really think about, especially if the increase in tuition fees, it's still available to you. And in fact, in the cash, in the actual money that you repay may be different. Because remember, after 30 years, no matter what is left, it gets wiped. There are additional government support you can get out there. The disabled student allowance gives support for students with disabilities or dyslexia. The travel grants, if you are studying abroad from a lower income family, you can get support in that. And also dependent and childcare grants. That's if you have children yourself or adults that you look after. Now, the one I really want you to think about is scholarships and bursaries, and there's two types. Firstly, there's university specific ones. So this depends on the institution that you're in. And then you've also got ones which are more general. Now, I've got a few that you can see from the 6 institutions that are here today. Scholarships and bursaries, sometimes the words can be used interchangeably, but bursaries normally are given to people who have a set criteria, for example, a set household income. And if you reach that criteria, you're probably automatically going to receive it. Whereas scholarships may be more open. So for example, if you're good at music, you could apply for it, but there may not be ones available for everyone. You can see here, City's got the Lord Mayor of London scholarship. Goldsmiths has the Black, Asian and Minority Ethnic Bursary. The Queen Mary, the Annual Fund Scholarship, Royal Holloway, the Future Leaders, SOAS, the Sanctuary, and St. George's, the Opportunity Fund Grant. These are just a snapshot. Each one of these universities has multiple scholarships. And if you just look on their website, just type in their name into Google and click scholarships, it will show you what's available. There's also ones that are available just for anyone, no matter what their institution. For example, the Vegetarian Charity gives up to £500 grants to vegetarian and vegan students. My one thing I really want you to leave with here today is thinking of a website called Scholarship Hub. It's like a Google for scholarships, and you can find out what you may be able to access. One thing I would recommend looking up earlier, in my case, when I went to university, my bursary was dependent on a household income and grades. And if I got a few grades higher, I would have got extra money as well. So it's maybe good to think about when you're doing your exams. For you staying in London, one of the key things you'll be spending money on is travel. So it's good to think about how you'll budget that. You'll be entitled to an 18+ Oyster card, which gives you a reduction, also 16 to 25 rail card, but also looking at alternatives. I know since the pandemic, I've taken up cycling within London, and it really brings the city smaller, but is also a lot cheaper. And you can also think about cheaper ways in which you can do it. For example, some universities let you pick your seminar times, and if you make them a little later, it may be in off-peak times as well. And also just thinking about how you can save money within the city, knowing not to go for all the tourist traps, using museums, going to them for free, our beautiful parks, doing a tourist swap. Instead of paying to go to the top of the Shard, you can buy a drink in the bar just a few floors down. That to pay, it costs about £40. To have a drink in the bar, it's about £9. You can do street tours. If you can look out the blue plaques, you can find those now. Do free events, things like Notting Hill Carnival, and also look out for cheap tickets. But the things I want you to remember is that you need to apply for student finance in as soon as possible when you're in the year 13 or before the spring before you are going. So if you're going this September, applications open this week. If you're in year 12 right now and you're going the next, it will be in spring next year. Search for scholarships, see what is out there, and also just start to think about your budget.